Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Show here on Bowlers Network. We are back to talk all bowling and maybe a little controversy. I keep saying that because I have a couple of things I'm going to bring up today that my guests do not know about. So let's intro my guests right now that are joining me this week. We have Jay Fettig, the creator of Bowlers Network, and Zak Leutmer. He is the social media guru of ZVL Bowling. I love reading his stuff, and so glad you guys are here with me today on this cold, rainy, sleety day in Texas. I know, Jay, it's about minus 15 or wherever you're going to be going, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
And Zak, what's your temperature?
Minus 13 right now.
Sweet,
Yeah,
sweet,
it
sweet, sweet.
is brisk.
it's balmy there, Zach.
It's,
It's
Yep,
it's
I know.
balmy.
balmy. Well, my it's balmy there. Hey guys, bundle up. But talking about bundling up and the chill that's in the air, let's talk some PBA bowling right now. So PBA is going to be starting up in a few weeks here in the Fort Worth area at Bolero as well as the ITRC. Hopefully they won't have a snowstorm during that week as well. It will be February, you never know. And we're going to talk Player of the Year race. And we each had to come up with who we thought would be Player of the Year. And you don't have to have your reasons, but I've got some stats here. So let's start with you, Jay. Jay, who was your pick for Player of the Year on the PBA Tour this year?
I gotta go with my man Marshall.
Okay.
He's been through a lot the last year and a half. Marshall Kent. I know what he's been doing. I know how hard he's been working. We talk often. He had a great year in 24. As you know, he took his first major, which you're watching right now. Like I said, I know the work he's been putting in, and I know it's going to be people are going to be looking at me a little weird, but especially as hot as some of the other players have been, I got to stick with my man. Marshall, I love you, man. I know what you're going to be doing this year, so
Well,
Marshall's my pick.
Well, first off, Marshall is capable of it. He's been capable of it for quite some time. He's a good friend of mine. He's like a little brother.
Yeah.
He's in a good place. He is doing all the right things to keep himself conditioned as an athlete, both mentally and physically. And I can't disagree with you on that pick. Here's some things, though, I want us to pay attention to while we talk about our further picks for PBA. Player of the Year. Marshall, 33 years old, 7 titles, 1 major. You mentioned it, 2024. But again, I want to focus on the age. 33, young,
Oh yeah.
a lot of career in front of him. Zak, your pick.
Yeah. So I went with Andrew Anderson. He was a number 2 one-handed bowler last year, right behind, of course, EJ Tackett. And Andrew made the big switch of ball companies, which sometimes bites people. Sometimes that can be a little bit of a struggle, but he popped off as one of the best players last year. I believe he was number 2 or number 3 in points. And this year, I saw at the last half of 2025 going into 26, there was a lot of really good equipment coming from Storm Bowling. And he's, of course, 900 global, so in the Storm umbrella. So I really think those extra good bowling balls that are coming out are going to help him out. Early 2025 wasn't as strong for Storm, and he was able to put up these crazy numbers with a slightly weaker catalog. And now bringing in a lot of really good bowling balls that have come out, I think he'll be really able to excel. And also, there were oil pattern changes this year, and there's a couple tournaments last year that he excelled in. If you guys remember, I believe it was the US Open where they had the splotchy pattern, where it had like different strips of oil in different places that look crazy. They have another one like that in the PBA Dragon this year, and Andrew led that portion of the Open by miles. So I really can see him doing good things on that pattern just with his ball roll as a one-hander.
You call it splotchy, I call it barbells, reverse Christmas trees, you name
Yeah.
it. They had a lot of that where also the forward runs, back runs, very different, very difficult, always wound up being flat. So I'm not going to go against Andrew because he's one of my favorites. Again, I want to pay attention. Age 30. 6 titles, 1 major. He has already been Player of the Year. Marshall has not. Andrew has been, so he knows the mentality. Before we move on to my picks, though, Zach, I want to know your reasoning. Why has it been a lull for Andrew? Besides equipment, let's take that out of play. Is there something else that's holding Andrew back?
Well, one of the big things in that Player of the year until recently was his expectations were through the roof. When you win a Player of the Year, an MVP, whatever it may be in whatever sport, your ceiling is the top of the world. And then sometimes you set your sights a little too high. Maybe you miss that, you miss a cut or two in the season, and then mentally you can drop pretty quickly. And I cannot speak for anything with Andrew's mental game. Of course, do not know him, don't have those conversations, but I could see that being a big part of it. And then he was switching a lot of ball companies and that trying to just find that right ball motion, trying to probably flip that switch mentally. And then last year something clicked and he was able to make a couple shows, make some good runs, win some matches on TV. Another really important one is one, getting to TV, two, winning those matches, which is a whole nother beast. And he was able to win some last year, which was an awesome sign. So it seems like that confidence is really starting to get there, which is great.
Before you move on,
I do know
I want to
him.
make it. I'll make a quick comment here, Carolyn.
right
That is, Zach, you are spot on. And Andrew, first of all, is a terrific guy, very, very nice guy. The mental toughness of what you just mentioned is precisely, I think, the reason I'm going with Marshall. He's been through a lot. He's learned how to win. And that mental toughness is something that at 33 years old, you're finally figuring it out. So anyway, I just wanted to make that comment, Carolyn. Go ahead.
That's fine, because I was going to say, I do know Andrew. I do think his expectations were a little high based on one good year. This is not anything I haven't said to him. I'm still on his bandwagon. But I do think when your expectations are so high and you don't reach them, it does do something to you mentally. But with that being said, speaking to him over the last few months and after last year, I think he has put things in perspective from mental to physical to actually throwing the ball. What I mean physical is working out, in the gym, doing what's right. So I think you're going to see the whole package out of Andrew Anderson. On to my picks. You cannot take Anthony Simonson out of the realm of Player of the Year. Absolutely not. He has been on fire since he entered the PBA Tour. Now we're going to talk age. 24, 16 titles, 5 majors, the first in many categories, right?
He's a machine.
And here's the thing I love the most about Anthony. He's a realist. He's a realist. Love him or hate him, he says what's on his mind, but he does the work. And when something bothers him, he pulls out a little bit of the Pete Weber. He's just going to tell you what he feels, right?
I love that.
Now, here's the other thing. When he's on the lanes, not always super Mr. Nice Guy, very, very cordial and very professional. But it is to the wall, I want to win this title. What is your take on that, Zach?
No, that makes perfect sense. I mean, last year, Anthony easily could have won USBC Masters, came down to just a couple final frames and all of the plays, of course, with what a lot of people watched in that Masters event. He was able to take it to that final game. And Anthony's always there. And he's also, like you said, incredibly young. And one thing we didn't talk about is a lot of these guys peaked very early in their careers, like pre-25 years old.
Yes.
And you're a different person before 25 years old compared to after. Just speaking, I'm 28 and I can say I'm very different 4 years ago than I am now. Right. And that's a lot of these guys is that realism sets in, that perspective sets in. So once they can get through that, I mean, I don't disagree with that take at all. And also, he's the only two-hander we've mentioned. Last year was dominated by two-handers on the tour. I believe it was correct. 70% of the top 20 guys were two-handers. So that leads me into it, and I know we're going to be wrapping this segment up here in a second, but Jay, I want your take on this. No one has talked about EJ Tackett, who, yes, that was my double pick. You let me cheat a little bit. You cannot take the EJ Tackett factor of a 33-year-old going right to what Zach said. He has been on fire since his 20s. That's number one.
I want your opinion on that. Number two, not one person picked Jason Belmonte.
That's actually a good
take.
point. Yeah, good point. And I think Belmo has the fire. The only caveat is the age, right? For Belmo, EJ, can you win 4 in a row? He obviously has the game. He has the mental toughness. He's got everything you need. And EJ is such a good guy too, personally. I think he has learned along the way everything that a person would need to learn. I mean, obviously, by the 3 in a row, right? He's the best on the planet.
Right.
There's so many people we could have put in here, dark horse candidates. I think Ethan Fiore is someone you can't ignore either, So there's just too many, but I think EJ has got to be a favorite for anybody.
Yeah,
okay,
so
as we wait, hold on one second, Zach, because I'm going to come to you right now. As we roll into our next little discussion here, okay, which we did not have on our paper, so I'm throwing it at you. What about a rookie of the year? Now, we do not know who the rookie of the years are. I did, of course, take it upon myself to chat with Tom Clark a little bit. A few names he threw out, just a very quick, what do you think and who do you think? We've got Spencer Robarge, Brandon Bonta, CJ Petrin, and Julian Salinas. Now, stout group. I think there's going to be a few more. We just don't know about them, so we're not limiting, but right now that's who we have. Okay? Zach, who's your take?
CJ, 100%. We're two of the guys you mentioned are lefties. That's one of the biggest things with the PBA Tour. Last year was not a lefty year on tour. There was maybe 2 events where a lot of lefties were making the cut, but otherwise
it was a two-handed tour.
Yes, it was a two-handed righty tour most of the year.
At a lefty, we go to two-handed.
Yeah, so it's hard to put my money on someone like Spencer because as while he had all these guys had incredible college careers, it's very tough if last year not many lefties were able to do much just because of how transition worked and with all the urethane stuff, all the fun things. So it's very hard to put your money on a lefty. But CJ, I mean, he's won a ton. He has a beautiful ball roll, especially for the PBA Tour. I think that's going to help a lot.
Okay. Jay?
I'm the opposite. I'm going with Spencer. I mean, and I have to say, I'm a little bit partisan, and I got to admit that. He just signed with the Brunswick family, so I got to say that there is a little bit of, partisan there. But I love his game. I really do, and the changes that they're making regarding urethane, I think will help equal things out a little bit. So I honestly am going to put my money on Spencer.
Okay, I'm going to go against all of you, even though I like every single one of these kids. I'm going for Brandon Bonta.
Oh.
So.
Do tell.
Here's my take. I don't have really one specific reason. First of all, I think he has phenomenal ball roll, and I think he's very underrated. But I think I'm going to put it into a group overall consensus. I think this is a strong rookie class. I think we're going to see a few more come out. I do think there is going to be some factors. Zach, you touched on it just a little bit. I think patterns are going to play crucial to whether the left or right, two-handed, one-handed. And here's the thing. Whether you like it or not, as professional bowling is moving forward, you're going to need a high rev rate. You're either going to be two-handed or you're going to take advantage of it when the left has it. My concern with Brandon or anybody coming out who's a traditional bowler, how high is your rev rate? Can you keep up? Or is it just going to be in the majors? It's going to be something very, very interesting to watch. So I love it. I love that I threw that in there. We got a little take on it, which sends me right on over. You mentioned it, Jay, with Spencer Robarge. Zach, you mentioned it with Andrew Anderson. Staff skipping. What's happening here? What's going on in the crazy world of bowling? Not to date myself, I'm old. Let's just face it.
So am I, Carolyn.
In the day, in the day, in the 80s, I'm not even gonna go back to 70s, but in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s, you had people on staff for years. My first staff contract was 14 years. I was with the company. The next company I was with was 5, and now I'm with Rotogrip for, if you add my other year, 12 or 13 years. Turbo, I've been with them 20, I think. You know, I know times have changed. I get it. There's less bowling. There is less money. I want to know your take on maybe what some of the reasoning is, and is it a good thing or a bad thing for the sport of bowling? Jay, you go first.
Well, you and I come from the same time, so we're of the same age, and I've been a proud representative of Hammer, not very long, only 3 years, and obviously Turbo as well. I don't get paid like these other people do. These pros, because this is their living, you can't blame them. If it for a couple of reasons, I think. One is they get paid, and if somebody's going to pay me a little more or quite a bit more, first of all, is it worth it? But then the second answer to that, is it worth it, I think is one of the reasons Zak mentioned with Andrew, moving. The ball motion of the company, the balls they were putting out seemed to fit their game a little better. So if those two things match up, where I'm going to get paid a little more and I have a better chance of winning, just like golfers, right? They go where the money is and the chance to win is. So if those two things marry up, I don't blame them. Unfortunately, but I guess it is what it is. I don't blame them.
Well, no, I don't blame the player. People have to do what's best for them. And
Yep.
you don't know everyone's story, okay? You don't. You don't know why people do what they do. And sometimes they indulge and sometimes they don't. You hit on something, though, before I ask Zak, you hit on something. Before I changed to a different ball company, the first question I did ask to myself was, do I feel as if I could still be as competitive as I am now? Because I'm one of those who weigh the pros and the cons. I'm very process oriented when it came to my contracts. I still am, quite frankly. I still am very process oriented, even though I'm in a different era of my contracts. Zak, your take on that I want you to touch on a few things: loyalty and matching the bowler to the company.
Yeah, I'll start with the loyalty side. I think it's something we see in a lot of sports, and it's bled into bowling a little bit. I mean, 20, 30 years ago, you watch a basketball or baseball game, and you have those guys who are career players at different teams. Bowling, it was the same way, but that's really changed now. You're seeing trades all over the place in sports. Bowling has kind of gone the same direction. It's more, people are more open to switch, and it's the same way in corporate with jobs, where more people are switching jobs quicker and quicker. It's just something that's kind of been around all different types of the world, and it's really bled into bowling in that. So the loyalty side is kind of dipping a little bit to try to get, like Jay said, the two main reasons for money and then for better ball rolls, for something that'll match up to your game better. So moving on to that side, all three companies right now, the major companies, have really great products. I think this is the most competitive we've seen the bowling ball companies against each other in a long time in terms of what their reactions are. But there are still little quirks between them. One of the big ones was Spencer signing with Brunswick. How many lefties are signed with Brunswick on the PBA Tour? 95%? 97%? Anyone not named Jesper? It's very tough where in that game, like in the last 10 years, has been a urethane game. Brunswick has had a certain purple hammer ball or now a black hammer that has been dominating. So lefties have gone towards them. So that's why you see all of them go in that direction, because it's a better matchup for their game. However, on the other side, EJ's ball roll fits Motive to a T. It would be entertaining to see him in a Storm ball or a Brunswick ball, of course, but I think the Motive stuff just matches his game best. His very heavy ball roll. I mean, you have AJ Johnson, Michael Davidson, and him with similar-ish ball rolls, and they all throw Motive stuff really, really well. Going over to the Storm side, I mean, you can see a lot of different styles that have
Right.
had so much success over on the Storm side.
Yes.
But there's different games that fit different companies. And
Mhm.
while some of them are a little more, seem like they have more styles under their umbrella than others, you got to be able to find what matches. Andrew, his ball roll didn't really match Motive, is the way it seemed. When he was with Radical before that, his ball roll didn't seem to match Radical at that time. Where now with the global stuff, it was like you put an Ion Pro in his hand and he's the best player in the world. So
Right.
it's always tough. It's so tough. You just have to keep experimenting to find what's right.
So this is, before I even say, by the way, I'm getting my winter storm warning in my ear constantly on that thing. So I just want you to know, Texas is having a winter storm warning. If you didn't know.
Oh, please.
I could not agree with you more, Zach. The other thing with EJ Tackett, though, and he has come right out and said it, he has bowled a lot on string pens, which he felt helped him really tackle how to hit the pocket and make it productive, besides matching up with the company that he's with. But I love how you actually did that in 3 different sections. Each company has something for someone. I have always believed that. First of all, I've always believed the bowler's better than the balls. Call me a traditionalist. I don't think there's one ball that's supposed to make us famous, right? But it's okay. We all know where we're going to go with the urethane and blah, blah, blah. But it will be interesting to see with some of the shifts, if their years and tournaments do change, not even just this year, but what I mean by years is what will happen next year? What will happen the year after? Will it be just a one-hit wonder? I don't really know, but it's going to be interesting to definitely see the shift in where that young talent is really going to take advantage of what's out there on the PBA Tour.
You mind
which
if I make a
leads me-
comment, Carolyn? When you get
Sure, go
mind
right
if-
ahead.
See, one of the and you and I are a little bit older, and one of the things that you learn, unfortunately, and I hope this doesn't affect these younger bowlers, we've been talking about how young they are, is the blowback down the road of potentially switching companies too often, right? You'd have a tendency to potentially burn a bridge, right? And there are some players who just right now, as good as they are, they probably aren't going to likely to get signed again. You know, so we just got to, the advice I'd like to give them is, you know, be a little bit careful. So I'll turn it back to you.
Right, totally, 100%. There is a way to do it, and there is not a way to do it. Again, I always just use myself because I don't want to pinpoint anybody. Knock on wood. I have never burned a bridge that I know of. I actually sent apology letters. But there is a way to do it because this industry is so small and there's only so many places you can go, right? So that's definitely something to take into consideration when you are. There is nothing wrong with changing. It's the way you do it and why you do it that I think is the key factor. My God, I'm a New York Mets fan, and there's a couple players, I can't even remember what teams they've played for because they've been on 5 different teams, right? We see it all the time. But quickly, before we leave today, I want to touch on one more subject. So you're going to kill me. It's all right, though. We're going to talk about education because I'm a huge education fan. We talked about it in one of our other podcasts, getting the rev rate and the speed. We need that to match to be successful. I want to talk a little bit about, I want you to give 2 quick tips. How do you read a lane and how do you read the transition? Zach, we're going to start with you.
How do you read a lane? First tip, I'm bowling ball nerd 101 on the internet right now, so I have to say understand your equipment. If you're going out there and have no idea what your bowling balls do, you can't read a lane because you don't even know what your equipment does. It's just impossible to be able to read it then. Reading transition is trust your body, trust your mechanics. If you're leaving 3 10 pins in a row, don't think, I just threw it bad 3 times in a row. No, transition has hit. So trust what your ball is doing and don't always think physical mistakes are happening and then make the moves off of that. Be a little bit selfish when you're bowling is always what I go to. Think that you're really good. Think your physical game is awesome out there.
I love that because I'm going to tell you, people can say whatever they want for the bowlers that were at the top. Being selfish is a little bit of the reason why the great bowlers are great, in a good way, I might add. Jay, two little tips there.
Well, I think Zak's point is correct. Trust what you're doing. And a good friend of mine, Thomas Wolf, comment, make a zone change. Don't just inch your way. Trust it. Make a big move. Be bold. If you're, whether it's flat 10, ringing 10, whatever it is, right? Make a zone change and do it before, not after. So that would be the one. I think a lot of league players misunderstand. So it depends on that education is league players don't even really know what transition means. And I think this is a great subject, Carolyn, that you bring up. And gosh, I think we could spend, a half of an episode talking about it. So, understand, first of all, what transition even means. And I think to most league players, they don't even know what that means.
I love that analogy. And my tip is pretty simple, and I still stick by this as the standard because Dell made me do it every day when I was at home. Going back to Zak, something you said, Jay, something you said, every bowling ball would come with me to practice. I'd get lined up with one middle of the road ball with about 1,000 surface. I'd get lined up with one ball. I then had to take every single ball that I brought with me, the high RG, the low RG, you name it, and I had to get lined up in that same spot, make that ball work. I couldn't move. I needed to pull a ball and make that ball work from that spot. And then I got lined up with another ball and went through the whole pack again. So I probably made it a little bit harder on myself, but it all worked out. Do not be afraid to test yourself and do not get down. Do not be afraid to change surface, which helps transition that lane so that you can see different ball motion. But again, test yourself. Really put yourself out there to see what you're capable of. And if you're not good at one thing, spend a little more time on that at your next practice session. Guys, this has been great. And we are going to talk more about education when everybody joins us on Monday. This is the Daily Show on Bowlers Network. We will have some guests here and there. We may have a different host here and there, but we talk all bowling. And as you can tell, we definitely don't hold back, but it's all for the betterment of bowling. We will see everybody on Monday at noon Central Time, right here on Bowlers Network.